It is said that deep within the heart of Eriador, beyond the reach of map or memory, lies a place untouched by time, the Forgotten Vale. A land veiled in mist and shadow, where the moonlight dares not linger and the wind whispers only to those who listen. This is not a tale told in the halls of Minas Tirith, nor sung by elven minstrels in Lothlorien. It is a tale half remembered and barely believed. Elrin, a young lore-keeper from Rivendell, had set out on a journey not to seek glory, but understanding. He carried only a worn leather satchel, a flask of sweet water, and a scroll inscribed with ancient fading runes. They spoke of a forgotten valley, lost in the time before the Third Age. His steps led him past crumbling watchtowers and ancient barrows, where the air grew thick with silence. On the seventh night, as the stars bled silver into the sky, he found it, the edge of the vale. Thick fog clung to the trees like ghostly hands. Even the birds refused to sing here. Still, Elrin stepped forward. The moment he entered, the world changed. The leaves no longer rustled from the breeze, yet the air carried a voice, low and distant. It did not speak in words, but in feelings. Sorrow, longing, warning. Elrin paused, heart pounding. He lit a small elven lamp, its soft blue glow barely piercing the gloom. Shapes danced just outside its light. Ruins swallowed by vines, statues cracked and forgotten, eyes carved in stone still watching. And then the whisper came again, clearer now. Elrin. He turned sharply. No one. Only the rustle of memories too old to die. In the heart of the vale stood a great tree, taller than any he had seen. Its bark was silver gray, like starlight trapped in wood, and its leaves shimmered faintly, though no wind stirred them. Elrin approached slowly, the earth beneath his boots soft and warm. As he placed his palm upon the trunk, a pulse echoed through his body. A rustling in the leaves behind him made Elrin rise. From the shadows emerged a figure, tall, cloaked in moss and bark. Its face was neither man nor beast, but a shifting mask of nature itself. The guardian of the vale. Its voice was like wind through old branches. "You have seen too much," it said, "but your heart is not tainted." Elrin stood firm. "I came for knowledge, not power." The guardian studied him with unseen eyes. "Then you may carry what you've learned, but you must promise, speak not of this place, unless to warn." Elrin nodded solemnly. The guardian raised a hand, and the path behind him cleared. As Elrin walked back through the veil of mist, he did not look back. The weight of what he had seen pressed heavily on his chest. But there was also peace. The vale was not evil, only forgotten. A place where memories lingered like echoes, waiting for someone to remember them. He returned to Rivendell weeks later, thinner, quieter. He burned the scroll, and though he wrote nothing of the Vale in his tomes, he would often look to the west and whisper, "I remember." And somewhere, deep in the mists, the Vale whispered back. The days following Elrin's return to Rivendell were fraught with a heavy quietness. He found himself withdrawing into the silence of his chambers, where the weight of the Forgotten Vale pressed down on his thoughts like an unseen hand. His mind was often adrift, not fully present among his fellow scholars, as his eyes seemed to linger on the distant horizon, drawn to the west where the Vale still lay, hidden in the folds of time. At night, when the moon hung low in the sky, he would walk alone along the riverbanks of Rivendell, the cool waters reflecting his pale face. It was during these hours that the whispers would return, faint at first, but growing louder with each passing night. "Elrin." The voice was soft, like the rustling of leaves in a faraway grove. It was a reminder of what he had seen, of what he had heard. Yet, each time he searched for the source, there was only the vast, still landscape around him. The Vale had not forgotten him. Months passed before Elrin could silence the growing need to return to the Forgotten Vale. He knew the journey would be perilous. Few who ventured into that land ever returned unchanged. But the pull of the Vale was irresistible, and soon he found himself preparing for another trek, this time with more than just curiosity. He sought something, answers, or perhaps closure, though he wasn't sure what it was. Once again, he walked past the crumbled remnants of ancient watchtowers. But this time, the atmosphere felt different. The world around him seemed to hold its breath as he approached the edge of the Vale. The fog rolled in thicker than before, and the wind seemed to carry with it a sense of urgency, as if something awaited him in the depths of the Vale, just beyond the veil of mist. With a deep breath, Elrin stepped into the darkness. This time, the Vale felt more alive, more present than he had ever imagined. It was as though the land itself was aware of his return. The air grew heavier with each step, the whispers now clearer, as if they were beckoning him deeper into the heart of the forgotten land. As he walked further, Elrin found himself drawn toward the memory tree once more, though he did not fully understand why. The tree stood in the same place as before, its silver bark now shimmering with a brighter, more intense light. It was almost as if the tree itself recognized him, its leaves whispering a language only he could hear. Elrin extended his hand, and as his fingers brushed against the tree's bark, the world shifted once more. The ground trembled beneath his feet, and the sky above darkened, filled with strange, swirling clouds. The visions returned, only this time they were not memories of the past. They were images of what was yet to come. In his vision, Elrin saw a great city, much like Rivendell, yet different. Its towers were taller, its streets darker, its people colder. He saw himself there, though he was no longer the young lore keeper from Rivendell. He had grown old, his hair silver, his face worn by time. He stood alone, watching as the city around him fell into chaos, its people lost in a war they could not comprehend. And then, in the shadows of the city, he saw the figure of the Guardian. The moss-covered figure watched from the darkness, its face ever shifting, always just out of reach. It spoke in a voice that was both a warning and a lament. "The promise you made," the Guardian's voice echoed through Elrond's mind. "It is not yet fulfilled." The vision shifted again, and Elrond found himself standing before the tree, the silver roots stretching deep into the earth. The woman in the silver robes appeared once more, but this time she did not weep. Instead, she extended her hand to him, offering him a single silver ring. Elrond reached for it, but as his fingers touched the cold metal, he felt a surge of sorrow, a grief so deep that it threatened to consume him. He understood then. The promise made long ago had never been broken, only forgotten. The Vale was not just a grave, but a living memory, and its legacy was bound to the world outside. As the vision faded, Elrond found himself kneeling at the base of the tree once more. The world around him had returned to its former quiet, but the weight of the decision before him was clear. The Guardian's warning echoed in his mind, and the woman in the silver robes haunted his thoughts. He could leave the Vale as he had done before. He could carry the knowledge he had gained and live a quiet life in Rivendell, never speaking of what he had seen. But there was a price to that silence, an unspoken debt that would grow heavier with each passing year. Or he could fulfill the promise he had made so long ago. He could speak of the Vale, not to seek glory, but to warn, to ensure that the memories of the past were not lost, that the mistakes of old were not repeated. But in doing so, he would open the floodgates to something much greater than he could comprehend. The Vale would no longer be a forgotten place, a prison of memories. It would awaken, and with it, the power that had been buried for so long. Elrond stood slowly, the air around him thick with anticipation. He looked once more at the memory tree, its branches now reaching toward the heavens, as though calling him to make his choice. And in that moment, he understood. The Forgotten Vale would never truly be forgotten, not as long as there were those who remembered. With a deep breath, Elrond turned away from the tree, the weight of his decision heavy on his heart. He would return to Rivendell, but he would not be the same, and the Vale would not remain hidden for long. Some stories, once awakened, can never be silenced again. Weeks passed, and Elrond's return to Rivendell was met with quiet curiosity. He resumed his work in the libraries, though his eyes were often distant, his thoughts far away. He had not spoken of the Vale to anyone, not even to his closest companions. But as the days wore on, he began to notice something strange. At night, when the wind was still and the moon shone high in the sky, he could hear the faintest whisper, like the rustling of leaves. Elrin. It was not the Vale's whisper this time. It was something else, something that had been awakened by his decision. The echoes of the Forgotten Vale had begun to spread, and the world, though unaware, was already beginning to change.